Ireland-Israel relations are foreign relations between Ireland and Israel. Since the 25th of January 1996, Ireland has an embassy in Tel Aviv and Israel has an embassy in Dublin. The Israeli ambassador to Ireland is Ophir Kareev and the Irish ambassador to Israel is Kyle O'Sullivan. Both countries are full members of the Union for the Mediterranean. Ireland only extended de jure recognition to Israel in 1963. And both countries established diplomatic relations in 1975, when Ireland's ambassador to Switzerland was also accredited to Israel. Prior to that, Ireland had refused to establish relations due to Israel's alleged violations of UN resolutions. In 1981, however, Ireland condemned Israel's attack on Iraq's nuclear reactor. Ireland did not allow an Israeli embassy to open until the 20th of December 1993. 2 weeks prior to that, Ireland had allowed PLO leader Yasser Arafat to visit and open a delegation. During the 20th century, both the Irish and the Jews provided each other with moral support for the war effort for independence against the British, when the Irish fighting tactics inspired the Jews in their fight in Mandatory Palestine for independence. For example, Yitzhak Shamir, inspired by the IRA fighter Michael Collins, applied in the Lehi the policy that every fighter would have to carry a weapon with him at all times. Shamir's underground nickname, Michael, was based on the name of Michael Collins. In 1978, the Irish Army contributed forces to Lebanon as part of UNIFIL, a UN peacekeeping force in southern Lebanon, which was the scene of fierce fighting between Israeli forces and their proxy militias and Lebanese guerrillas. From 1978 to 2000, Ireland contributed over 40,000 troops to UNIFIL, and was the country's largest military involvement outside its own borders. Tensions erupted between the two countries over alleged mistreatment of Irish forces by the Israel Defense Forces. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, the Irish government regularly called the Israelis to criticize them over their treatment of Irish peacekeepers. Irish Foreign Minister Brian Lenihan said that much of his sympathy for Israel disappeared when he saw how Irish soldiers were treated. Irish forces were a major participant in the Battle of Attiri, where UNIFIL troops withstood an attack by the South Lebanon Army, an Israeli-backed militia, after it attempted to set up a checkpoint in Attiri. One Irish soldier was killed in the battle. Following the 2006 Lebanon War, Ireland deployed a unit of 150 troops to protect Finnish army engineers. In 1978, Aer Lingus, the national airline of Ireland without prior agreement with the Irish government, secretly trained Egyptian Air Force pilots, at a time when Israel and Egypt were still in peace talks, and had yet to sign a treaty. In 2003, the Irish government opposed the building of Israel's security wall in the West Bank. According to WikiLeaks, following the 2006 Lebanon War, Ireland sought to limit U.S. weapons transfers to Israel through its territory and Shannon Airport. In August 2010, Boaz Modei was named Israel's ambassador to Ireland. In February 2012, Nouri Tinri Modi was appointed deputy ambassador to Ireland. She is married to the ambassador. However, an Israeli foreign ministry source clarified that Ms. Tinri Modi was an excellent professional diplomat who could have secured a full ambassadorship on her own merits. In March 2013, Alan Shatter, Minister of Justice, Equality and Defense, said, while visiting Israel, that Ireland is a friend of Israel. We have a government in Ireland that wants a deeper engagement. But we also have a government in Ireland that is committed to the peace process. During that trip, it was announced that Ireland and Israel would start an initiative to work closely together on reducing road deaths in both countries. The level of road deaths is higher in Israel, but both countries have made huge strides in reducing fatalities in recent years. In May 2014, the Anti-Defamation League published its ADL Global 100 survey, the largest and most extensive survey ever into global anti-Semitism. The survey identified Ireland as one of the least anti-Semitic countries in Europe, and showed that 41% of people surveyed had a positive view of Jewish people, while 28% had a negative view. In September 2014, Irish UN peacekeepers on the Golan Heights rescued Filipino colleagues who were surrounded by Islamist extremists. Senior sources confirmed that Irish soldiers would, almost certainly, have been killed or taken hostage if it wasn't for the military intervention of the Israeli army. And that assistance from the Israeli army was decisive in the success of the rescue. In November 2015, Alison Kelly became Ireland's ambassador to Israel, replacing Eamon Mackey, who returned to Ireland in the summer of 2015 when he was appointed Director General of the Trade and Promotion Division of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Kelly presented her credentials to Israeli PR